Welcome to This Indulgent Life with me, Mary Cook, and this is episode number 25. We are finally caught up with this interview and officially all about parenting, discovering your purpose, and living a life we love from here on out. Today on This Indulgent Life, we are speaking with Meri Murphy on creating the life you want instead of just letting life determine you. Welcome to another episode of This Indulgent Life, where I give you tools, strategies, and encouragement to help you parent with confidence. I'm Meri, and after having my own personal revelation on what it meant to break the cycles of anger and guilt, to connect deeply and live joyfully in both my parenting and personal life, I began helping other mamas do the same. If you want to be inspired, if you want to be a more mindful parent, if you want to know what it takes to take that next step in creating your extraordinary life, then you are in the right place. So before we start, I just want to go over a little housekeeping with you again. First, remember we used to be a family travel podcast, and over time I realized that we were really talking about family itself, about parenting, about values, about creating a life you love. And so after I was coaching mamas, I realized this was the direction I really needed to take it, because there are so many of you out there who are just looking for a little guidance and a little support, and I want to be that for you. So if you are enjoying the podcast, if you like where we're going with it, please subscribe and then leave an honest rating and review, especially in iTunes, so that other people can find it. Then don't forget, we have a free Facebook group, and it's super simple. All you need to do is search for This Indulgent Life, or just go to facebook.com/groups/This Indulgent Life, all one word. And inside, for a limited time, you can find a free 5-day Calmer, More Joyful You challenge, where we talk about mindset, we talk about tools and techniques, routines, the real self-care. All of that is inside. Plus, every week I go live with more tips and tricks and encouragement, and you can find all of that inside the group. So I look forward to meeting you there. And now, let's move on to our interview. Welcome back. I'm so excited to introduce Meri Murphy to you. Meri is a stay-at-home mom of 3 little kids, ages 6, 4, and 1. And Meri, her husband, and 3 children all live in beautiful northern Colorado. In fall of 2017, when Meri was pregnant with her 3rd baby, though, she realized she had become kind of miserable and unhappy in whom she was as a woman, a mom, and a spouse. This realization sent her on a journey of self-discovery, passion, growth, and forgiveness, which ultimately helped her change what she believed was possible in her own life. 8 months later, in June 2018, she became a published co-author of a children's book. Then, in September 2018, she launched her blog, Mom Purpose. She created her blog to be a platform for women and moms, new, seasoned, or soon to be, to help change what they know is possible in their own lives by designing their own motherhood experience. Meri believes in the adage that in order to live our best mom lives, we must begin by taking care of ourselves, body, mind, and spirit. And as a result, we are able to take care of others more effectively. In addition, Meri has been implementing systems and routines into her life over the past 2 years, and these systems have led to big changes that have helped her manage her time and home more effectively on a daily basis, to get and stay in shape after having babies, and to become more accountable, aware, loving parent and spouse, and finally to pursue her passions. So basically everything that I'm all about. So I'm really excited to share this interview with you. Welcome, Meri Murphy with Mom Purpose. I'm so excited that you're here. You're my very, very first podcast in the United States in my camper. not
Yay!
not many access here. But we're doing good. I'm really excited to have you on. I'm loving the idea of a mom-driven life, or the that was right? Mom-driven life. Is that what your motto is?
Motherhood by design.
Motherhood by
Yeah.
design. There we go. Motherhood by design. That's so perfect with what we're moving into here with this indulgent life and creating the life that you want. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came up with your blog and just your origin story?
You bet. Yeah. Thank you for having me here. And I came up with Mom Purpose. I originally created the name it was last year, last April, I believe. And I decided to start writing a blog based on some changes I was making as a mom, as a person, as an individual. I'd gone through some pretty big struggles when I got pregnant with my third son, but it also brought on a major turning point where I started to reflect at the kind of mom that I was and I was becoming. And I didn't really like that person. I didn't like that version of a mother either. So I started researching and I basically asked myself why I couldn't become someone different or why I couldn't become a person or a mom that I wanted to become. And that kind of developed into, okay, I could start writing about it. And then I decided to, why not do a blog? And that evolved into basically finding a passion to share it with other moms and maybe other moms that have struggled with the same things, because I've met a handful of them, quite a few of them as well. And I'm sure you have too. And it seems pretty commonplace for moms to feel that way. And I feel like it doesn't have to be. So I've been on this journey of growing myself, but also being able to share the value and my experiences with other moms. And that's kind of the direction that I'm taking my blog with that. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's basically it.
And if you don't mind getting into it, getting a little
Hmm.
personal, what was it that you weren't liking? What was it that you really needed to change?
Well, um, I often refer to this when I talk to my husband about it or some of my friends or family. I often refer to I felt like I'd become a default mom. I was going through the motions. I was doing the things, saying the things, I suppose acting the way I needed to when people were there, but I didn't like who I was becoming. I rather than proactively becoming the mom and parenting my children, I was reacting to how their behaviors were going on, what they were doing, and I recognized some of my own behavior in my own children, and it was not good. I could see, especially my oldest son, um, I could see him becoming more withdrawn and more. He would just get upset and have tantrums over things, and he was kind of out of the tantrum stage, I felt like, compared to other kids his age. Um, but yeah, there was just a lot going on with that. And I mean, I had issues in my own relationship with my husband at the time where I felt like either I was going to be stuck in this position for the next 20 years and just be miserable, or I could make a change. And I thought, why can't I make this change? Why can't I do something different? Why do I have to be miserable in this? Why is this getting worse? And so that's what set me on that path. But
Was there
um,
like a pivotal moment, like something that just kind of clicked, or was it a slow process?
the moment that I realized it was a pivotal moment. The process after has been slow, of course, but uh, it was literally sitting on the couch, reflecting and thinking, I'm going to be miserable in my life. I'm going to be miserable with the person that I've become as a mom and individually in my relationship. And I knew that I would be here and I'd always be here for my kids and my husband, but um, I thought I was just destined to be miserable because I saw so many examples of that when I was growing up with other moms and in some cases with my mom. And I thought, oh, I guess this is the way it has to be. And then I started reflecting. I remember exactly where I was sitting and what I was doing. And I remember thinking, wait, I've seen a lot of moms that are happy, and I see a lot of people that are thriving and they're fulfilled and they're happy and they're excited about life. Why? What do they have that I don't? And I know a lot of these people that I've referred to as far as their backstory, and they've gone through a lot of hard things. So what shifted for them? And so I started to reach out in my own like research and learn more about their lives. And then one thing led to the next and led to the next. And all these things just started coming to me that were, I guess, answers to start be able to shift out away from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Could you tell us some of the things that you've learned?
Sure. Well, the first thing that really that was a pivotal moment for me. But a couple days later, I was talking to my sister, and she referred a book to me that someone had referred to her, and it was a good book. I read it, but it wasn't the book that had started the change. It was actually she referred to a woman that was kind of woo woo, and that I had heard the author's name before, and I was like, huh, I've heard of that. And I went into my Audible account, and I'm like, oh, yeah, my husband bought a book a year ago for me, told me about it, and he'd never read it. I'd never read it. I just kind of put it off. And so I started listening to this book, and of course, it was the infamous Louise Hay, and I started listening to her book, and that was what shifted it. Got into affirmations, which I've never been a believer of affirmations or meditation or anything up to that point. I felt like there was significance in it, but I never found the connection with myself. So I started reading that book, and that led to the next thing, and a waterfall into the next thing. I've just sort of learned a lot about how I have been drifting, and the things that I've learned have been, again, it's been more of an internal shift, but I've seen the results of it in my children, in my relationship, in my friendships, in my family, and how I'm showing up for people now. And I just hope it just continues to grow. So,
And for
yeah.
those who don't know, what is that book that you read?
This one was called, ooh, let's see, it's a Louise Hay. I'd have to look it up, but there's one, You Can Heal Your Life. She has that one. And I don't remember the direct title. I'd have to look that up, but I can get that back to you.
Yeah,
But
we'll put it in
she's
the show
got a
notes.
lot of great books. So any one of them, some people call her woo woo, but there's a lot of application that you can actually do that you can start seeing changes right away, actually. So pretty cool.
My husband and I took a course by Dr. Laura Markham, and part
Okay.
of that course had affirmations and things like that. And my husband and I were like, "This is a little woo woo for us," but maybe we need a little woo woo in our life. Like maybe what's
Right.
missing is doing some woo woo.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. And when she started talking about affirmations, there was one thing that caught me that I thought, okay, so that's what I've been missing, because she was explaining how if you just say an affirmation and you're just like, oh, life is great, it's so great, and you're just saying it, she's like, you're missing the whole other side. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started listening more intently, and she basically just described that when you're saying something and you're affirming something positively, you've got to connect a picture, you've got to connect an image, you've got to connect an emotion, a strong, deep connection with what you're saying. If I just say, I just want to be happy, but I have no connection to it, she describes that that's not going to do anything. Great. You're just throwing just words out there. So that was actually a really big shift for me. And I have seen the power of, bringing affirmations into my life, or just whatever you want to call that. But so
Is there a particular affirmation that really kind of connects with you?
the first one that, yes, the first affirmation that I got big changes, the ones that I saw the most, that I shifted the most, was the simple I approve of myself. It was a simple self-confidence, just affirming that I'm okay and connecting emotion to that. And she requested in her book, actually, she suggests that you say this affirmation over and over, I think for like a week. I did it for 3 months. I know this sounds really crazy, but I felt like it took me that long to break through to where I could build enough confidence, and to get through a lot of all the mussy stuff
Now
to
that
really
makes
start moving.
sense because from what I understand from research I've done, it can take 3 months for things to kind of click.
Yeah.
And so that's about right. And I mean, that's a big one. It's not like just saying, I'm going to do something. It's a deep ingrained like issue that you've probably had since childhood to overcome. So
Oh, yeah.
I could definitely see how that would take some time. And I think
For
it's
sure.
important for people to know that that will take time. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to be a better person or whatever, and then it happens. Like,
Yeah.
there's a process, and there's time, and there's sacrifice, and there's heartache, and all of these things involved in the process. And it's not all going to be sunshine and roses and rainbows. You know, you can't have the rainbow without the storm, right?
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Absolutely. And I think that it was also the layers of approving of myself in every aspect, especially as a mom. There's the mom guilt of all the things that we could have, should have, or would have done, or wish I would have known this then kind of thing. And so I had to work through a lot of that as well. So, yeah, I mean, it took a while, but I could see the effects of it within the first week. But I felt like I was finally able to let that affirmation go. I mean, I still use it once in a while, but was able to shift away from it and start going on to other things after about a few months. So
How have
yeah.
you seen the changes in your children and in your relationship? Like, do you have any examples of that?
Yeah. The best example I can give you is just the behaviors in general. So I was explaining earlier about how my oldest son, I could see him getting more despondent, reactive, get upset over things. And I knew that was a direct result of how I was coming across to him when things were getting tough. I didn't handle it well. I didn't handle overwhelm well. And I could see that he wasn't handling it well either. So, with my little girl too, I saw her shift. But again, I feel like the biggest shifts have been in myself, my oldest son, and then seeing my relationship with my husband. We were with my husband directly. We were at a place where we liked the saying that in our relationship, we've been together for about 15 years, and we would always say if we leave and say he leaves the house and I stay home, if he is missing me while he's gone, then something's going right in a relationship. But if he is feeling like he needs to get away from the family, needs to get away from me, needs a break, and there's some things that we need to address. And I felt the same way. If I wanted him to go, there was something that needed to be a conversation that needed to be had or just some reflecting. And we were getting to a point more and more that when he would go for travel, it was like, get a break. Like I could just feel like the arm's length and he could feel it too. We would have more arguments, if you will, to get more deep into it. But I've seen when I first started making the changes, I could see that he felt threatened. So he was scared. But I just kept the path and I slowly started seeing him start to take on his own things. And he started to make changes in his own life and reflect and say, wow, I could be doing this. And I used to be the one, well, you could do this and you could do that. And it was so easy to point the finger, right? But when I stopped doing that, he started doing it with his own life and saying, oh, I could shift this, I could do this. And now I can happily say that feeling of when he goes for work, I miss him. I want him to be home as we can, and he misses me. And so that's the best example I can give to you in that regard of how that shifted for us. And then with my kids, I mean, my son is thriving. He's a very sparky child. Like he's got a lot of energy. He's full of wonder. Like I said, he used to be explosive and he'd be reactive and he would hit and things like that. And now I've seen him have more self-regulation, more control, and he's a kind, sweet boy. He always has been a kind, sweet boy, but I'm seeing him learn how to self-regulate a lot better. And I know that's a reflection of how I've been able to shift, my husband been able to shift. We're all shifting together in a way, if you will. So,
So really, by focusing on yourself and focusing
mm,
on getting yourself right, everyone else has been able to see that and been able to then model, what you're showing them, and
exactly. Without
reciprocate.
even knowing it, it's just
Yeah.
kind of just spills over, if you will. So yeah, absolutely.
So maybe the whole "if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy" saying is not so much about just making mama happy, but letting mama get happy so that everybody
Yeah.
can feed off that energy.
Yes, because married moms are the hub of the home. They are the center, if I'm not centered, if I'm not working, doing my best, that spills over into everybody in my family. And I know we all affect each other, but I can see the reliance from my husband, from my kids on me. And when I'm off, I can see that just ripple out to them. And that's just how we are, right? So
Yeah.
it becomes a train wreck at the end.
It's a big, it's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, and responsibility. At the same time, it encourages you to take care of yourself. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of moms are afraid to take the time that's required to take care of themselves because there's so much to do. The house itself, especially as you get bigger and bigger homes, there's just so much more to do. You know, with
Yeah.
each kid, there's so much more to do. And you just feel like, oh, well, it's just constant. I have to get things done. But all you're doing is burning out very quickly. And I've noticed it with myself when there's something that I have to do, I have to get it done, I have to get it done, and that task becomes the most important thing for me. I have no grace for everyone else, right? You know, my son
Absolutely.
comes up and it's just like, okay, you just need to like leave mama alone right now. Mommy's trying to do something. And it just, you can feel that anger and that frustration just building
Mhm.
up versus when I'm able to kind of shift this and be like, okay, there will be time for this. Let me stop for a moment and connect with whomever. The interactions are so much more calm. I don't feel that stress and frustration, and it impacts the rest of my day and their day. And
Absolutely.
it's so important for us to make that mind shift. And it's a constant shift, right? Like it's not a one and done and I'm
Mm-mm.
over it.
Not even.
And every time you transition to some other, new part of your life, new child, moving, whatever, you find that there's a shift. Because let me tell you, that first, it's like a second week back in the U.S., I was not the mom I want to be at all. I was doing things that I recommend nobody do, and it was a struggle because it was first time really being stay at home mom, and I had all these things that I felt like I needed to get done, and we're in this tiny space, and nothing was put away, and I was like, I just need to do this, but in the end it took longer because I was fighting against family basically, and
Yeah.
my own well being. So once
Taking
I
care of yourself.
took time and relaxed a little bit, then things were able to get done.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing. I'm impressed with you doing all that you've done. I love that you brought up the word anger because I feel like that's actually a taboo term when it comes to moms because nobody wants to admit that they get angry.
That
They
they're
don't
the
want to
angry
get
mom.
right. We don't want to be the angry mom, right? It's not a word like I've heard so many words like around it, like upset or frustrated or I got a little over the top. But angry is I feel like it's a more taboo term in mom life
Mm-hmm.
because but I know I've never met a mom that hasn't gotten angry with their kids. You know what I mean? I've never heard of that, whether or not internally or externally, however they're handling it, but it's still there. So I'm glad that you brought up that term because, yeah, I felt that. I felt it too. And when you're not taking care of yourself, you can feel that it's just starting to build up to the top of your neck and to your brain. And then all of a sudden, you're going to explode or you got to do something. And I feel like that is a really awesome thing. Can feel scary when we get that upset, but I feel like we have that for a reason. I feel like those are our warning signs. Like, okay, we need to take a break, Mary. We need to step and go hold the child. This can wait. This is not as important as that. And like you said, a lot of times it's a lot easier to give the advice than to do it yourself in a
Yes.
lot of ways, but because it's so much easier to look at somebody
Oh
else's life
yeah.
and be like,
When you are
"Ooh,
not in the moment, it's a lot easier to see the bigger picture.
oh
So
yeah,"
that's
because
why
you
I
don't
have
have
a coach
a.
myself. Right?
That's
Like I
awesome.
need coaching as well. Same with
Absolutely, we all do. And you were also talking about how you have all these things to do as a mom. You've got home management, finances, and then you got to do all the logistics and you got to do all the stuff. And this is part of what Mom Purpose is about and why I created it is I feel like all that stuff has taken up 80% of my time as a mom. And I feel like it shouldn't. And I feel like it should be 20%, where 80% of my time, and this is my motto, and you go on my about page and it's about focusing 80% of our time on passions, hobbies, traveling, our children, our relationships, family, friends, things like that. And how we do that essentially is by my theory is to create systems that are almost automated to take care of the rest of the stuff. So
Exactly.
we, you know what I mean? So get
Yep.
those things in routine, in system, and then that's taken 20% of your time. You can be like, all right, that's handled. And you gotta do it. It's essential, right? But why is it taking up 80% of moms' lives? And it's not just mine. I've seen it almost every mom I know. I've seen it. And so I'm like, why can't we flip the switch? Why can't we flip that over
Exactly.
and spend our majority of our time on things like this? So
That's part of, when I coach women, that is one of the things, is setting up the schedule, these routines that just make things a little easier, because if we don't have these habits in place,
mhm.
things just build. And when your mess in the house or whatever, right? I am naturally not a clean freak person, but
Right.
there's this limit. And once you hit that limit, my anxiety just shoots through the roof. And when my anxiety shoots through the roof, everything goes crazy.
Yeah.
And I can't focus. I can't be calm, which means nobody else in the house is calm. And, so having, that's what I did. That's how I'm able to do that this week, is because last week I took the whole week and I created a schedule, and it's a work in progress.
For sure.
But hey,
Always.
there's time now that I get to do my yoga. There's time now that I get to do my devotions. There's time for me to work and, do education and listen to podcasts and, things that I need to be the person I want to be
Yeah.
the coach I want to be. Um, that I need that time. And my husband also needs time for his business and his personal things. And then I want to make sure my son has time with each of us. So by making this schedule, he's got bath times, I've got bath times, he's got dinner duty, I've got dinner duty. Making sure that we are all working together as a team and we know what's going on. So, because I don't know about you, but deciding what we're doing for dinner is like 90% of my stress.
Right? No, I could totally relate to
I
that.
hate trying to decide what to do for dinner. And that then, flows over into everything else.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the upcoming things I'm going to have somebody come guest post on Mom Purpose is about that because I'm very similar. Meal planning and things like that, I'll do it and I do it and I've done a lot better than I ever have. But if I don't have a system in place, then I'm spending, like you, I'm spending so much time worrying about it. And I'm like, oh, but if there's a way to kind of automate that, if you will, to a degree and create a schedule, create a system to do that, like, it's like, that would be 10%. It'd be just done.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, whew, we got that one handled. So that's why that's kind of the elements that I'm putting onto the website as well is the same thing. But yeah, uh, why it's just so funny. It makes me just laugh. I've been thinking about in the past. I'm like, why have I spent so much time worrying about all these things when, like, where am I? Where, like, you get to take care of yourself. And I think that a big misconception for people when we say systems and routines, it's like it's very
Yes,
rigid. And
exactly.
I want to explain that it's not rigid at all. It's always a flowing thing. You're always changing and tweaking and making it a little bit
Yep.
different, but the base element is there, the foundation is there, it's set, right? You've got I guess a system or a something to look at and say, hey,
Yeah,
right?
I guess it's because it sounds so businessy, like so corporate,
Yeah,
but really
yeah,
all it is creating habits and structuring it so that you can build those habits. Eventually, they'll all flow and it will feel more natural, but at first, you're not used to it. So it's going to feel a little bit more, scheduled and just kind of in a box. But
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm not one of those people that likes to have. I'm building a business that I can travel the country so I don't have to sit in one spot, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
I am not typically one of those people that wants everything segmented.
So, yeah.
But I've
Yeah,
learned that the way my brain is, because I am very free flowing and, whatever, I have to have a schedule because otherwise nothing will get done. And then I
yeah,
feel that pressure and anxiety and I don't know what I'm doing. And things still have to get done, like you said. So I need
yeah.
that in order to give me some parameters. It's not that
Yes.
things can't flow and shift, but it just gives me some security net, basically. It's just like with kids, right? Kids
Mm-hmm.
need boundaries in
Mm-hmm.
order to feel safe. It's the same with us. We need some
Absolutely.
systems, some habits that we can feel safe in, that these normal everyday things are taken care of so that we
Absolutely.
can be more creative and just more in tune with ourselves.
Yes. And I actually can relate to you because I'm not a type A personality at all. Like I have struggled with this in my whole life. I've been the go with the flow, just take it as you will kind of person until I realized when I got pregnant with my third kid around that time when I was like, I probably can't do it like this anymore. Like I've really got to create a system. And yeah, I'm the same way. It was kind of when I was prepping for this call, I was thinking about how I've been that way with traveling. And basically, I realized the same thing with you. I have to have a baseline. I have to have something that I can follow, some kind of structure. And what I found, even which is more awesome, is that by creating that structure, I'm able to be more spontaneous and be more flexible in the areas I want to be because I have that. Whereas opposed before, I didn't have a schedule at all. And then I'd end up coming up to the wall and be like, I got to get this done, this done, this done. I still had to do it. But then I took all the spontaneity out of the rest of my experience. And so by creating that foundation, that system, that schedule, and that routine and saying, okay, I've got this set, now I can go and enjoy this over here and really enjoy it because I know these are already taken care of.
That's right.
And so, yes, I can totally relate to all of what you just said.
It's really great to have this feedback and know that it's working for other moms. So when moms are listening, they can see how it has worked for us, right? And how we've been
Yeah.
able to shift from being this woman, basically, because it's not just about being a mom, it's
Mm-mm.
just ourselves as a person, how we've been able to shift from being these anxious, angry women to having more creativity and more calm and peace in our lives. Not that everything is perfect all the time,
Mm-mm.
but just that it's more than not now.
Yes, absolutely. There's more clarity. There's more there's a room for more fun. And I think that because you've gone through where you said you were coming to the point where you're boiling and you're like, okay, I'm getting to this point where I'm just getting so frustrated. You have the tools now where you can actually reflect and recognize that about yourself. I know there was a point where I didn't know I was doing that until later on. And now I can look back and be like, wow. But now I can actually recognize when I'm getting to a certain point and be like, all right, I have a choice here. I can boil over or I can die. And sometimes it's not quite that clear, like
Yeah.
right in my face, but most of the time I'm able to dial myself back or take the tools that I have and be like, okay, we got to bring this back. I got to, do what I tell other people. I got to use my own advice here kind of thing. But I think recognition is a really big step in that. So
Agreed.
it's good. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have just a few more questions, and
Okay.
um, I know we didn't talk a lot about traveling and whatnot, but I think the whole parenting journey is kind of a big trip, right?
It is a travel. It's yeah, it is a big trip. Painful, fun, emotional.
Yeah, everything. What do you have on the agenda next? What's coming up for you, for your family, for your blog? What do you have coming
Okay.
up?
Um, well, for my family, me and my husband are, I was going to go into another change that I've seen with our family is rather than me and my husband. I think my husband's deferred to me a lot with our children to be like, you parent your style. I'll just kind of step aside. And we realized that it hasn't worked. And we've been slowly being able to try to parent together. And part of that is my husband used to travel a lot, so he wasn't here a lot. So I was the primary.
Yeah.
But now he's home every night. So that's helped to shift things. But we're coming to a place where we get to parent together. And I wish we could say we did at the beginning of having children, but we didn't, honestly. It wasn't that way for us. And so now we're integrating into learning how to parent together. So we're coming up with this idea of setting up certain nights for our family to where we focus on certain things. So for example, we would say we're brainstorming the idea of Wednesday nights or when we talk about the family and about parenting and how what we would like to improve or what we see or things that we can shift, and then we do a game night or a movie night or we go a date night and things like that. We're starting to come to a common ground with that, which is really cool. So that's starting to shift for us as a family. We're starting to plan more trips outside. So currently, we mostly travel to go see our families because we both live away from both of our families, and we're starting to set up vacations away from just visiting families. So that's coming up for us. For the blog, kind of just what we've been talking about. I want to shift Mom Purpose into a place where moms can go, a platform they can go to learn how to create systems in their life so that they can start focusing on the bigger picture for themselves and actually, because I think that gone is the time where we have to put ourselves aside for 20 years while we raise children. I disagree with that concept. I was of that mind before because that's the way I grew up. But now I'm of the mind that we can do it both and we can be awesome at both. Like I don't have to put my kids aside to do my passion or to do a business. I can do them both together. And the best way that I'm trying to figure that out is creating those systems, routines, schedules, and have that all set so I can be free and flexible and my spontaneous self over here, if you will.
I
So,
agree. And I see this with my own mother. Um, I never knew that she felt like this, but she felt like she took care of everybody else for so long, and now I guess her mantra is it's my time. So I'm going to do this for me.
yeah.
And like your kids still want that connection as an adult. So it creates this barrier, right? And it doesn't need to be that way. You shouldn't get to the point where you're just like, it's all me now. All me, all the time, Like, if you've gotten to that point, then you have let yourself go too long. And you definitely should have some time to yourself. But it's also one of those, like you said, the past generations have felt like, well, I've got to only take care of everybody else. And we've seen that necessarily hasn't worked out very well because none of us have come away with the emotional stability that we've needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're 50 years old or 60 years old and feeling like you don't want to take care of anybody ever. You don't want to ever have that responsibility anymore because you've done it too much. You've not had that balance. So
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It needs to be a balance now, and we need to shift society's mindset on this.
And I agreed with you earlier is there's a lady by the name of Kate Northrup, and she had this quote, and I saw it, and I thought it was really great because she's talked about, she's like, balance is important, but she's like, it's actually, and you said this earlier, she's like, but it's more about boundaries. It's setting those boundaries. And I think that comes with the rest of what we've been talking about is setting those boundaries with our children, with our husbands, with ourself, with our family and things like that. And yeah, and finding that balance with that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then realizing it's not a perfect. It's like
No, not
nothing will
even
ever be perfect.
close. No way.
We're just doing the
And
best we can.
it's all about growth, right? It's not
Yeah.
about perfection because gosh, that's an illusion really, but
It's funny because my mom told me that she parented the way she did so that she could improve on the way her parents parented. And
mhm.
now, we're obviously kind of doing the same thing. We're realizing the downfalls of how we grew up and we're trying to shift that and be better. And then our children will do the same and so on.
Yeah.
Uh, but then they get so, what's the word here? offended. But it's just us learning. We know things now that we didn't know even 5 years ago. Five
Yeah.
years ago, things were
Yeah.
completely different. So now that we know things, we're just evolving and changing. And you know what? In another 5 years, we will evolve and change. And it's just realizing that you are doing what you can right now. Doesn't matter what happened in the past, you're doing what you can right now. And you will just continue to do that because we're human, and that's one of the beautiful things about being a human is we do have that ability to improve on ourselves and evolve and change.
Absolutely. And I think that any mom, you want your child to do better than you did. I mean, I do. I know my mom did, and I know her mom did, and hopefully that progression improves with each generation. So,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Well, okay. So, what do you hope? So, normally I ask, what do you hope your kids will learn from travel? And if you want to
Mhm.
touch on that, that's great. But I also want to know what you hope your kids will learn through watching your journey.
I hope they'll learn to keep the wonder in their life, to keep exploring, adventuring, and to keep growing, and to know that we are not perfect. This is not a perfect life is not about perfection. Life is about love and living and laughing and growing together. And I hope that as they see me through my growth, it will inspire them to continue their growth in their life. Because one thing about my mom, with her raising us, I saw her improve every year. She always tried to grow and she never stayed one way. I always saw her try to do a better job. And that has been a huge, huge thing for me. And I hope that I can pass that on to my kids to help them to keep growing no matter where they're at, that everything will find its way. And yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. I think if we can instill that in our kids, it doesn't matter what area of life it is, whether it's school
Mm,
or marriage or children or whatever, that they will have that resiliency to keep going and reflect.
yes.
What does family time mean to you?
Family time. Ooh, I love this quote. It says, "Together is my favorite place to be." And my husband looked up the word together, and it actually, I don't remember what language it was, but translate, it was something to the effect of it means love. And so time to me means together. It means no matter where we're at, no matter where we go, no matter where we're traveling or if we're at home, we're together and we're here to support each other. And we're not just together in the sense that we're sitting on our iPads and looking at our
Mm-hmm.
phones and we're all in the same room. Like, we're together in it together. We're in the experiences together and we support each other. We got each other's back. That's what family time, and obviously having a good fun time while you're doing it. But so yeah.
But taking the good and the bad, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
always
Yeah, because it's not,
goodness.
I don't want to paint this pretty picture for my kids that life doesn't have bad things that happen, because life is tough. But if you can have this attitude of we're together in this and we can make fun pretty much of anything after a certain point, we can do anything. We're unstoppable. So,
Agreed. And sometimes I think those quote unquote bad things happen to help show us that we need to come together a
mm,
little bit
oh
more,
yeah.
or we need to start shifting the way we view things. Like we had so many things happen our first 3 weeks here in the US. Oh my gosh, I can't even, but it was such a mindset shift for me, and really practicing what I preach and just being like, okay, we're okay. You know what? I'm glad the flight got canceled. I'm glad that we now have to spend 2 days here. We can go and explore, or I'm glad the truck died here. At least it died in the campground. We're safe, like
That's
just
awesome. No, for real
just
though.
trying to keep the calm and see the positive side of things. And it's not easy and it takes a lot of
Mm,
practice. But
amen.
that's what it's about, right? And then your
Oh yeah.
children will see that, and eventually they'll get to the point where you're like, okay, it's not the worst thing in the world. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Look at your little guy when he sees mom doing this. like the way you handled it when it comes up when you're coming up to the wire, he's going to be like, oh, okay, when he comes up to a wire. That's what I hope to emulate from my kids is
Exactly.
it's not about me being happy all the time, because that's not life, but I can be happy and I can pretend. But what about when it comes up to the wall and I'm you can tell that I'm struggling with something? How I handle it, that's how you build character, right? That's where all the character building is from. It's not when life's easy.
Right.
So good for you. That's
And
awesome.
kids are definitely more about doing what they see, not what they're told.
Uh-huh.
We can tell them all day long, but if we don't practice it ourselves, it ain't
Ah,
happening.
for sure. Yep.
What is one piece of advice that you can give to families and fellow moms?
Oh, I would say to, it's a good one. Just don't stop worrying. Stop worrying about what everybody else thinks. Stop worrying about everybody else and focus on your littles. Focus on what you want. Focus on what they need, and find ways. Just keep finding ways to improve it, and always improve. Don't assume that you're stuck just one way because that's how it's always been or that's what you've always seen. Like, get out there and try some new stuff, and you'll surprise yourself. It'll surprise you. So that's
Love
that.
that. I love that because it is something that comes up a lot, especially with, the older generations I'm around. And it's just like, well, that's just how it is. That's just how I
Yeah.
am. Like, that's just it. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be.
No, it
If you're not
doesn't.
happy with that, then change something.
Yes. Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about you, your business, advice, anything?
Um, I would just basically just re-emulate, just saying, just design your motherhood experience. You can make motherhood whatever you want it to be. Like I said, gone are the days where we have to put ourselves aside. But I also think that um, motherhood often is, there's always like, oh, motherhood's so great, it's so beautiful, but then there's always this undertone of like, but. So rather than doing that, let's shift that and say motherhood is awesome, and there are these things that I've done to help in these areas, and I'm designing my own motherhood experience, and I know that other moms are doing it too, and I know lots of moms can do it even if they don't know yet. So just live your life, live your motherhood by design. That's all.
Great.
So.
And where can people connect with you or find out more about you?
Currently, you can find me on Pinterest at Mom Purpose, and I just started an Instagram account for Mom Purpose. It's mom_purpose. So that's where I'm at on Instagram. So,
And then your
and at
blog
the
is
blog, yeah, and the blog is mompurpose.com. So,
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meri, for being here and sharing your journey with us. I know it's quite a personal, vulnerable place to be, but
yeah,
I and everyone else, of course, will really appreciate you sharing that with us. So thank you.
thank you, Mary.
See you
My
soon.
pleasure. All right, bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you subscribe and leave a rating and review, especially in iTunes. That would really help. And remember, we have a Facebook group for moms of littles at facebook.com/groups/This Indulgent Life, where you, for right now, can get that free 5-day Calmer, More Joyful You challenge, as well as all of the lives that I do weekly, as well as all of the tips and tricks that I give and post weekly, and the fun that we have. So come and join us. I really want it to be a place of encouragement, of learning, and honestly, a place to kind of de-stress. So I cannot wait to see you there. And remember, you can find all of the show notes at thisindulgentlife.com/25. Until next week, I hope you have an inspired week, and remember to take some time for yourself.